Hey, also, I am sitting here about an hour and a half away from being on my way to pick up my writers, my hedgies, as I call them, my Quill Cup hedgies. We have now hosted 7 in-person retreats in the 4 years that Quill Cup has been in existence. This is our 8th, and it is the last retreat in the 2025 year. And it has been such a cool ride to be able to meet these women online and already have an idea of who they are and what their projects are and cheer them on and through, milestone moments where they're celebrating and also pick them up from the ground when we inevitably feel down and out and imposter syndrome takes hold and we get stuck and we question whether we're cut out to do this author stuff. And so when we meet on retreats, it's not necessarily I'm getting together with a bunch of strangers that I met online. It is I get to hang out with these people who I've grown to genuinely like and love in person. And it is such an incredible experience. I don't know how many writers in total we've served. That would be a really cool number. I don't look at the numbers so much as the ripple effects that Quill Cup has had on these writers and their families. And the in-person retreats are so important for our writers to not only gel and remember that they are part of something bigger than themselves, but it re-inspires and reinvigorates them and their writing, and they come back as happier moms, more present partners, stronger writers. They come back more empowered and ready to keep going. It's such a cool pit stop along the way. And I thought, I kept waiting yesterday, today. I keep waiting for the anxiety, for the stress of planning an event like this. It's a mountain house. It's an hour and a half away from home, where home is right now. I won't be seeing Cody and our 21-month-old Nora for the duration of this time. First retreat, Nora was with me as much as she could be. I was still breastfeeding. That was my pull the Band-Aid off to keep being a retreat leader and a mom. I wanted to prove to myself that I could. And I didn't want to rob hedgies of the experience of a retreat just because I was now a mom. It ended up being really wonderful and exactly what it needed to be. The next retreat, Cody and Nora were in the same retreat house with us together. The third retreat with Nora, I got to visit a little bit. We got to see each other. And then the last one in Sintra, Portugal, I stayed at the house now without them. And I got to see them here and there because we were in the same town where Nora was going to school with the Boundless World Schooling program that we participate in when we can. And I keep waiting for the anxiety and it's not showing up. And then that makes me a little bit anxious. Like, oh, what am I missing? How am I not freaking out about this? And I think if there was something for me to worry about, I think my intuition would have already told me. I think I would have already been thinking about it. And, I take for granted that it took a lot of time, effort, energy, and practice to get to this point where I'm not freaked out or nervous about hosting 10 women in a retreat house. Sure, we know the house. We've stayed in the house before, so I know the lay of the land. I know where we're going. I have a dependable team to help with shuttle pickups and stuff like that. We know what meals we're serving. And I wondered how we got here. So for anyone who has been thinking about hosting a retreat, you've done one, you want to level up for the next one, I would be happy to share what's worked for me and what rules I had to break, what rule is a non-negotiable for me now, and what I'm trying to do better, the rule I'm still trying to follow. So the rule that I learned the hard way to break because it wasn't working for me anymore. I had the belief that if I just work so hard and if I think of everything then everyone will be pleased. Then everyone will have a good time. When everyone had a good time, or at least the majority vocalized that it was a worthwhile experience, I was on cloud nine. Who wouldn't be, right? Like, you delivered, you worked so hard, you delivered, it worked. And so then when one person was frankly brave enough to speak up and be like, I did not share this experience, or these are questions I have, I pride myself on not getting too wrapped up in my own ego to look at things objectively. But there's something, and I haven't figured it out, but there's something about one person bringing up that, hey, you did not actually perform in a way that I am pleased with, that like wrecks me. It like steals the joy of what I just did. And that is so, so hard. And over time, I learned that by following that rule of if I just work so hard, everyone will be pleased, I was actually creating an invisible contract. I was saying, if I work this hard, then I will have eliminated any future disagreements, any conflict, any negative perceptions or opinions. It is like the people pleaser's dream to work so hard, to be so perfect that you don't get any of this pushback, right? It didn't matter how many times my co-founder and husband Cody said, you have to focus on how many other people were there? And I was like, well, 19. Okay, so did those 19 have that same experience? Well, no. Okay. And something that I regret is not being upfront with the people who are, yes, brave enough to share. And I appreciate that, because there are things that I can work on. And so much of that feedback is so valuable that I can take it and I can run with it. But inevitably, sometimes the way that the feedback is shared is frankly hurtful. And it doesn't allow for grace. And I think because I am a person who values grace so much, that when I don't receive it, or I perceive that I don't receive it, it's like a knife to the heart. And so I was creating this invisible contract. And my new non-negotiable is, hey, be upfront with the expectations that you share for either a virtual retreat or an in-person retreat. Be so clear with what you can provide and what you cannot provide, what this experience will be like and what this experience will not be like, so that the participants aren't blindsided. It's just like picking up a book and expecting it to have a happily ever after, and it does not. You would probably rate that book like 2 stars. But that's because something about the cover, something about the blurb, it communicated to you that you would laugh, that you would have a good time. And then you start the book, you finish the book, and you're like, I actually feel way worse about my life. This is kind of what was happening with these participants. And so being very, very clear about expectations, and then listening for preferences. Something that I do before every single retreat now is I send out an intake survey, and I ask things like, how much sleep do you feel like you need? What are you joining this retreat for? What are you really hoping happens on this retreat? What are you hoping to learn? What would you be willing to engage in? Are you willing to know and be known? To what extent are you willing to practice vulnerability? Stuff like this. And I ask them, would you like to eat out? Would you like to stay in and have home cooked meals? And then I look at all of that information, and then I create the itinerary. And then I figure out what speakers I'm reaching out to. And so it kind of flips it on its head a little bit. Once upon a time, I would find the speaker, I would find all the things, I would put it on the itinerary, and then I would sell the retreat ticket. I do the opposite now. I sell the retreat ticket with the location in mind, with the general idea and the general vibe. And then if there is going to be more education involved, it's a higher ticket price because I'll need to pay the speaker, or I'll need to compensate my own time, effort, and energy into the education that I'm going to curate and provide. But if it's mostly like a self-guided writing retreat, the ticket's going to be a little bit less, and we're just going to have to cover the housing, the food, the transportation, and any other incidentals that might come up, right? Like specials. Recently, I've started having a special retreat merch item that every participant receives just by participating and joining in on the experience. It becomes a really cool memento and community builder. But yeah, the intake survey has become so important. So that's like a non-negotiable behavior. But the rule that is my guide in sending that is, even with that information, even with my best to curate the experience for each participant, I won't be able to please everybody. I would prefer that everyone has a great time and receives something of value so that it makes up for and even exceeds the value of the price of the ticket. But I can't promise myself that. And so I can work my tail off and I won't have that guaranteed outcome. And then in the opening of the retreat, I am very honest. If there is any feedback that comes up, something that you're finding, difficult, please let me know. But if it's about the retreat experience itself, please leave that until you've had time to process it and put it in the feedback form. And then I have a new line that I've put at the top of the feedback form at the end of the retreat. I say, this is not event sesh. This is meant to be a constructive place for you to share your experience in the hopes of helping future participants on the retreat. And then another non-negotiable behavior I have for myself is I wait until my cup is full. I wait until I feel like I can look at the feedback objectively, where I've calibrated my ego. And what that means basically is, instead of going to shameful one down where I'm like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person, I shouldn't be hosting retreats, who am I to do this? Or the opposite, grandiosity, where it's like, they don't know how much work it takes to put on retreats like this. How dare they say this? That's so insulting. Instead, I find a healthy middle, my healthy ego, that says, hey, I did a really good job here. And I know I did, and I know this had value, not just because somebody said it on the feedback form that I'm probably going to read, but I know that I made a difference in what I experienced and what I perceived. And also I have things to learn and improve upon. And thank goodness that I have people in my community who do ooze grace, who do ooze kindness. And it's not necessarily like a sandwich, right? Where it's like, good thing, bad thing, good thing. Instead, it's just, hey, we see you. And also, would you be willing to consider having home cooked meals as opposed to going out? I would be willing to pay more per retreat ticket if we could have home cooked meals instead of ordering out. And it's like, wow, yeah, that's so actionable. I can definitely put that into the plan. And so moving forward, something that I keep trying, that I keep aiming for as a rule for myself as a retreat leader and a facilitator of these experiences, is to not let one person's opinion rob me of the reality that I've made a difference for the good. That my actions, though the intention is always good, there could have been a negative impact, and to own it and to apologize for it. And also something that I'm really nervous about when this happens next, because it'll be my chance to like work towards this rule. So like, if this person feels like they can be real with how this experience has made them feel, I should also feel open to sharing how their feedback makes me feel. And I think in the past, I haven't shared that. I've leaned so far into, I need to be the professional. I need to leave emotion out of this. But that's not real, right? So to receive a piece of feedback and be like, wow, it absolutely crushes me that you feel this way. This feedback is very hard for me to read right now. It makes me feel initially like a really bad leader. And I don't want to feel that way. So I'm going to look at your feedback and I'm going to pore over it for hours and hours and hours because that's what I do. I'm probably going to cry really hard. I'm probably going to lose sleep over it, but I will find an actionable plan for us based on your feedback. And if you're willing to be part of that conversation, I want you. I want you on a Zoom call. Let's talk this out. Let's figure it out. Let's hash it out so that we can make the most productive moves forward. So, I'm not worried about this Colorado retreat. I know the women who are joining us, 10 amazing personalities who ooze grace, who ooze kindness, who love storytelling, who love community, and they want to be together to make progress on their work, to go hike some nature trails, to go to a cute coffee shop and bookstore in the town. I mean, it's going to be great. It's going to be so great. And thanks to a previous Hedgies feedback, we're going to have minestrone. And we're going to have another Hedgies recipe for Japanese curry. And we're probably going to order pizza. It'll be great. So I hope this is helpful for you. If you have it on your heart to host your retreat, whether it's in person or virtual, girl, it is on your heart for a reason. The more you can ask your participants, what do you want? What do you need? And then collect that and see if you can make even this session specifically for that writer. And if you feel like you can't do that, can you give them permission at the start of the retreat to make this retreat what they need it to be? That if they need to opt out of a scheduled activity in order to do something else that's on their heart, can they have permission to do that? Because for them, maybe that autonomy will be exactly what they needed in that retreat. All right, I hope that you work so hard that the day before the retreat, you can feel calm and peace and inspired and know that even if one person doesn't have the best time, that you still made ripple effects for good.